Hi everyone, it's Tanya and Mudhoni. Welcome back to Power Up, the place to brave up
and live your best life. So today, Tanya, we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, one that I'm sure will resonate with our audience, which is how can we get a seat at the table? And I'm sure when I go around, and I speak to different people, everyone wants to be at the front wheel. Whether it's someone who's just graduated from university or it's someone in their mid-career, everyone is trying to see how they can be able to carve out a space for themselves at the front. And my question to you is, can we all be CEOs and can we all, be board of directors at these big organizations?
So I'm going to answer that starting with a quote that I heard at a pre-Suncorp event that I attended a couple of days ago. And this lady who's our HR consultant said, if you're not at the table, then you're on the menu. And I think what she meant by that is in whichever space we are playing, we need to identify what impact we want to have and what kind of relevance we want to have. So just in terms of speaking about this, I want to read a passage from this book, Lean by Sheryl Sandberg. So I'm sure everyone has heard of this book, and if you haven't picked it up, please do, because it's got some amazing gems. It took me a really long time to get it because most of the online reviews were very disparaging and they sort of tended to focus on one aspect that Sheryl Sandberg was focusing on. But it's a pretty good book because it actually walks you through her journey and when she had a crisis of confidence and how she brought up women with her. So it's pretty cool. And it actually has a chapter called Sit at the Table. I'm just going to read it. So this was in an event that they had in Silicon Valley. So she says, after the usual milling around, I encouraged the attendees to help themselves to the buffet and take a seat. Our invited guests, mostly men, grabbed plates and food and sat down at the large conference table. Senators' team all took their food last and sat in chairs off to the side of the room. I motioned for the women to come and sit at the table, waving over to them so they would feel welcomed. They demurred and remained in their seats. The four women had every right to be at this meeting, but because of their sitting choice, they seemed like spectators rather than participants. I knew I had to say something. So after the meeting, I pulled them aside to talk. I pointed out that they should have sat at the table even without an invitation, but when publicly welcomed, they most certainly should have joined. At first, they seemed surprised, and then they agreed. And for me, that is so prevalent because we have this thing where we want to seek permission to be in the room and to have a seat at the table. And I know that, like, for example, for you and I, our career goals are sort of the same in terms of where we want to go. So we want to, be leaders and we want to sit in boardrooms as executives or non-executive directors. But it doesn't really matter whether you want to sit at the table in the boardroom or whether you actually want to be relevant because you want to make an impact in a certain community. Say your passion is education and it's the youth. And what you want to do is create a forum for the youth to have conversations and to encourage them, in terms of where the world is going and what their potential is and to cultivate their voice. I actually think that in a digital online world like we are now, we can all start to cultivate a voice. These days, there's so many forums. There's blogging, there's LinkedIn posting, there's WordPress, there's podcasts, there's YouTube, like what we are doing. There's, Snapchat and InstaChat and Instagram, and there's a lot of other things that I don't know. But for you to continue to have an impact and to remain relevant, you need to figure out your own corner or niche of the internet or the real physical world and start speaking to that corner and continuously make contributions so that you become a person who's a trusted advisor.
I really like what you've said, and I like the fact that it doesn't take much to start out. In fact, my niece, who's 9 years old, has her own YouTube channel. So you can start wherever you are, whoever you are. Start now. Start, letting your voice be heard across multiple mediums.
And, just before we close, I just want to mention that, so we both love Seth Godin. And he, every time he speaks, it feels like he's speaking to us. And he says, you're not going to be received by everyone with open arms. But if you start putting your craft and your art and your voice out there, then you continuously get more confident and you get better at what you're doing. And then you're going to get to a point where you have a tribe that so believes in you and trusts you that you have this identity that is a very trusted identity.
All right, great. And again, please go ahead and share your thoughts with us. We'd love to hear from you. And subscribe to Power Up, the place to brave up and live your best life.